Let's take a first look at the new Strixhaven Unearthed Arcana. D&D is coming out with a bunch of stuff. We just got told about the Wild Beyond the Witchlight, and we just got told about Strixhaven, and when you know it, we just had all of those Folk of the Fae, little Unearthed Arcana. So it makes sense that we're getting the Mages of Strixhaven Unearthed Arcana before the thing actually shows up. So let's take a look here. Colleges of Strixhaven. The 5 subclasses in this document are designed for characters who dedicate themselves to one of the passive magic practice of the Strixhaven. Already 5, that's actually a lot. We haven't had this many in, I think it's been, man, it must have been like one of the things that they're preluding to Tasha's since we've had 5. We have a Lorehold College, a Prismari College, Quadric, Silverquill, and Witherbloom College. Awesome stuff. So choosing the subclasses, unlike regular subclasses, okay, the options presented here are designed to be compatible with multiple classes. What? The classes are compatible with each subclass. Options are specified in each subclass's entry. Okay, so we're getting a weird multi-class kind of side class thing. Choosing the subclass. When you choose a subclass for your character, a bardic college, a wizard's arcane tradition, and so on, you can instead choose one of these subclass options as long as the subclass is compatible with your character's class. Oh, so I'm already thinking like it's sort of like a tri-class thing where if you are a bard, wizard, or sorcerer, you can pick from these, and then if you're, that's actually so smart. I've never even thought about doing that for D&D. I've seen it for other things, but I've never thought about it for D&D. That's actually really cool. How the subclass manifests in your character story is up to you. Yada yada, fun floor stuff. At higher levels, like regular subclasses, the subclass you choose here grants your character new abilities at higher levels when your character would normally gain a new subclass feature, as noted in your character's class table. You gain a feature from this subclass instead. Makes sense. All the subclass features detailed here have a level prerequisite as noted beneath their name. For example, you gain a feature noted at level 6 plus when your character must be 6th level or higher in the class in which the subclass was chosen. So if you're a wizard with the Mage of Prismari subclass, you must be 6th level wizard to gain the favored medium feature. Alrighty, that'll probably reveal itself to us because, you know, if you look at all the D&D classes, there is this thing of this class gets this ability at this level because, you know, it needs to counterbalance the other thing. So I'm sure there is a balancing act between if a wizard and a bard can choose from the same subclasses, then there needs to be a little bit of give and take. Alrighty, let's take a look here. Mage of Lorehold. Bard, Warlock, and Wizard subclass. Okay, so it's already telling us right there, you know, oh, that's such a smart idea, having like tri-class and dual class thing. That's so cool. Alright, Mages of Lorehold are particularly concerned with the forces that underlie and drive history. Okay, so they're the nerds, got it. Using the subclass, in this subclass feature, any reference to your class refers to the class from which you gained the subclass. If you're a bard, the College of Lorehold counts as your college. If you're a warlock, the magic of the college serves as your patron. And if you're a wizard, the college represents your arcane tradition. When you subsequently reach a level in your class, you gain these features. Makes sense. Let's take a look at what we got here. Lorehold Spells, level 1 plus Mage of Lorehold feature. When you learn a cantrip, a Sacred Flame, you learn the Sacred Flame? What? That's not even like a bard or wizard, or it can be a warlock thing. Okay, so we're already like off to a completely weird start here. And Comprehend Languages, a really fun spell. You learn additional spells when you reach certain levels. Each of these spells count as a class level for you, but it doesn't count against the number of spells you know. If you're a wizard, you can add these spells to your spellbook upon learning them without expending any gold and prepare them as normal. So, something to note here about wizards is I love the fact that they could potentially get a bunch of spells and add them to their character and, you know, writing it in their book. But I've almost never seen it done in any campaign ever because most campaigns are done at a breakneck speed. But considering this book, this adventure, Mages of Strixhaven, or the adventure Strixhaven, they said that it's going to be taking place at Strixhaven, so that tells me instead of going around the world globetrotting, you know, you're actually sitting around and just doing whatever it is you need to do. Alrighty, so that's pretty cool. You get some fun little spells here. So these spells are pretty techy, all things considered. We have Comprehend Languages, Knock, Locate Objects, Speak with Dead, Spirit Guardians. Okay, that's insane. Arcane Eye, Stone Shape, Destructive Wave, Legend Lore. Okay, so they get like 2 offensive spells, but then they just get a bunch of whole techie spells, which I like the techie stuff. Ancient Companion, level +1 Mage of Lorehold feature. You learn to call upon the spirits of the ancient dead and house them temporarily in the remnants of an old statue. Pretty cool. When you finish a short or long rest, you can imbue a medium thing with 10 feet in front of you. And it gains statistics of the ancient companion stat block. Okay, so we're getting an animal companion that's not an animal. The ancient companion is friendly to you and your companions and obeys your commands. In combat, the companion shares your initiative, makes things simple. It can move and use its reaction on its own, but the only action it takes on its turn is the dodge action, unless you take a bonus action on your turn to command it and to make another action. Okay, so that automatically means that there's some times, like Warlocks almost never use their bonus action, so they're probably just going to be using that all the time. But Bards, for example, Bard is, ooh, do I do the Bardic Inspiration or do I send out the Crony, you know? I like that. I like the idea of, you know, having to choose between certain things here. As an action, you can touch the Ancient Companion and expend a spell slot. The Companion regains a number of HP equal to 10 times the level of the spell slot expended. Okay, so you can just sit there and be like, you know what, my Companion's damaged. I've got a level 1 spell and I'm not going to use it. I'm going to help the homie out. That's pretty cool. And oh my goodness, this stat block is super long here. There is a plus 14, but we also see +2 warrior only. Okay. I guess we'll discover what that is. Pretty typical HP stuff there. 5 plus 5 times your level in this class. So that does scale up. You know, if you're a wizard, that scales up, you know, better than you. So there is that. The companion has a number of hit dice equal to your level in this class. Yeah, it makes sense. Whole bunch of fun little statistics here. Ancient Fortitude, if damage reduces the companion to 0 HP, it can make a con save of DC +5. So it's a barbarian, essentially. On a success, the companion drops to 1 HP instead. Oh, you know what? Actually, that's better than the barbarian because the barbarian always like ticks up. This is actually like a zombie. So this thing actually has a really tough time of getting killed if you're going up against people that barely do any damage. If you're going up against people that only attack with 1d4, 1d6, whatever. But if this thing gets blown out of the water, then it does get to a point where it's probably going to fail. It's only got a +2 con plus proficiency bonus. So, actually, right off the bat, that's already a +4 to its con save. That's actually pretty freaking good. Okay, so that pretty much, yeah, that's actually really good. It's got, you know, the basic attacks, plus proficiency bonus for damage, which I think is actually OP right there. That's already 1d8 +4 right off the bat. A Healer's Light. So, okay, so we're already seeing here that we got right there in the beginning there, Warrior only, and we're seeing Healer's Light, which is Healer only. Pretty cool. Does it state anywhere where you choose? Okay, no, I totally missed it here. Healer, Sage, or Warrior. Makes sense. And then what do we get for being a Sage? So, Sage. Where's the Sage? Sage, okay, Sage's Council. So, while within 15 feet of the companion, you and your allies gain a +2 bonus to intelligence, wisdom checks. That's actually pretty cool. I like the variety in. Okay, you know what? I'm going to have a wise person, and that's going to help me out as I do some arcana searching. You know, that's actually really cool. Let's move on to the... Okay, well, there's also a reaction here if you're a warrior. When a creature within 5 feet makes a strength or dex save, the companion imposes itself between the creature. The creature can add a d4. Okay, that's actually pretty cool. That's just a tiny little bless there, a tiny little resistance. Lessons of the past, through your studies, learn how to better listen. If you have a healer, your hit point maximum increases by an amount equal to your level in this class. Okay, so just really buffing it up. Sage, you have advantage on ability checks using Arcana, History, Nature, Religion. Additionally, once per turn, when you deal damage to a creature of with a spell first level or higher, you deal additional 1d8 force damage. So you wanna pump out the damage there, and also be smart. And then the warrior, you use your action to cast a cantrip. You can make one weapon attack as part of that action. If that weapon attack hits, the target takes an additional 1d8 radiant damage. I'm trying to think here. Is there any... There's probably some broken setup you can do if you're a warlock or a bard. Wizards typically have a harder time of doing this, but with a warlock, I think there's probably something you could do in regards of casting Green Flame Blade or something like that, and pumping out a bunch of damage. So I think there's a lot of fun things you do with that. War Echoes, 10th level. By pulling off the magic of the past, you can cause your opponent's old wounds to resonate once per turn. When a creature you can see hits a target with an attack roll, you can use a reaction to force the target to make a wisdom saving throw against your DC. On a failure, the target becomes vulnerable to one of the damage types dealt by the attack. That's an instant vulnerability. That's actually crazy. The vulnerability lasts until the end of the target's next turn and affects the damage dealt by the triggering attack. So that's an immediate vulnerability, which is huge. You're attacking someone and you think you're only going to do 20 points of fire damage. Boom, 40 points of fire damage. That's actually massive. You can use your action this way a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, and you regain them back on a long rest. So not unlimited. You can only use it at the very beginning twice, and then later on 3 times. So I think that's pretty cool. That's pretty epic, and it's tied to your spell save DC, so it's technically possible that a lot of wise people are not going to fall for it. History Whims. Through steeping yourself in chaotic whims of history, learn how to briefly channel the wild nature of time itself. As a bonus action, you can enter a state of chronal chaos. Okay. When you enter this state at the start of each of your turns, you gain one of the following benefits of your choice, so you get to choose. Luck, you receive a brief flashes of the future, steering yourself. When you make a saving throw against an effect that deals damage, you can roll a d6. So it's only an effect that damages you, which does suck because there's a lot of effects that can come at you that aren't damaging. But adding a d6 to, if someone's shooting fireballs, adding a d6 is pretty good. Resistance, you have resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage. So at level 14, you can finally become a barbarian. Cool stuff. And swiftness, time stutters. Your movement speed increased by 15, and you do not provoke attacks of opportunity. So that's pretty good if you are always going up against a DM that's, just always pressing in on the caster. You can always run away, and unless the DM is absolutely mean and has all monsters have Sentinel, then you're not going to worry about that. This benefit lasts until the start of your next turn. You can choose the same benefit you cannot choose the same 2 benefits in a round. Okay. So I like that. I like the fact that you have to change it up because I feel like in a lot of instances, there would be just the one best option every single time, depending on the game, depending on the environment, depending on the encounter. And I like that you have to purposely change it up because you could activate this and say, okay, next turn for sure, I want to do the swiftness, for example. So what do I do this turn? I really like that. So that's a pretty fun little subclass there. I like that a lot. There might be something broken found in there, but, people always, munchkin the bejesus out of all of these games. I'm not too worried about all of that. Let's look at the Mage of the Prismari here. Using the subclass. Who can use this? Druid, Sorcerer, and Wizard. So already we're seeing some nice variety in who can pick up on what. Creative skills. You gain proficiency in the 2 following skills of your choice: acrobatics, athletics, nature, or performance. So just a free little skill monkey right there. Kinetic artistry. You can dash as a bonus action. Oh, what? Dash as a bonus action. OP. So you're basically just you're a better monk already. You can run faster than the monk. Screw you. You can choose the following benefits as well. Boreal Sweep. Until the end of your turn, you can move across the surface of water as if it were harmless solid ground. Additionally, when you leave a space within 5 feet of a creature, you can force the creature to make a strength saving throw. On a failed save, the creature is knocked prone. A creature can be affected by water only once each turn. So if you were, additionally, when you leave a space within 5 feet of a creature. So that's already telling me that you could have a really memey encounter where you are literally running through people, and because this was only a bonus action to do, you can use your action to disengage, meaning you provoke no attack of opportunity, and you literally skate and weave around people, and if you're going up against like 4 or 5 people, you basically just skate all around them, and then they start all falling down. I think that's actually pretty thematic and cool, but I'm sure that's going to be pretty infuriating. I guess we'd have to see how that goes. The strength saving throw, if you're going against some foes, they're probably just going to be, hulking out. But, it just depends on the kind of people you're going up against. We also have Scorching Whirl. Flames wreath your steps. You can force each creature within 5 feet of you to make a dex save. On a failure, they take 1d4 plus your spellcasting mod. So that's, just a quick little damage there. Once before the end of your turn, you can force each creature within 5 feet of you. So that's probably telling me that you can only do that one. Yeah, you can only do that once each turn. So if you're surrounded, that's a pretty nice little pump of damage on top of whatever else you're doing. And Thunderlight Jaunt. You take on Nimble Lightning form until the end of your turn. You can move through the space of other creatures and do not provoke opportunity attacks. If you end your turn inside a creature's space, you are pushed into the nearest unoccupied space. You can use the bonus action in this way a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus. That's a key common thing we're seeing a lot recently is in the very beginning of 5e, proficiency bonus wasn't used for any sort of resource at all. And now we're seeing it used for pretty much all of the resources. So I'm curious to see how they're also going to implement other ways on tracking resources. So that last one is probably the most boring of all, considering that your character has a bonus action dash. You can already move so quickly. People are probably not going to take this one. There is obviously some instances where this is amazing, where if someone's blocking the path, you can just run right through them. But you know, I imagine that the other two are probably going to see more use. Favored medium at 6th level. You have honed your forms of the elemental expression. You choose one of the following types: cold, fire, or lightning. You gain resistance to that damage type. Pretty dope. Additionally, when you cast a spell using a spell slot that deals the chosen damage type, you emit a spectacular aura of artistry, which extends 5 feet from you in every direction and lasts until the end of your next turn. While the aura is active, each creature of your choice has resistance to your chosen damage type while within this aura. Okay. So that's really cool. You're resistant to fire, and then you shoot out a fireball, and then all of your friends literally right next to you, all 5 feet away, all have resistance as well. So I do like that. That encourages a sort of boxing up mentality, and that has its drawbacks, of course. You know, your party can get hit by AoEs, but if you gain resistance to a whole bunch of damage, that's pretty cool. I really like that. So I'm curious, is located anywhere in here that you can change what your type is at any point? Because in this first one here, it is you just basically you can pump out whatever thing you want, whatever damage type. But can you change it all? You can change your choice of damage type whenever you finish a long rest. Okay, makes sense. They want you to not be basically stuck in something forever. Focused expression. Once per turn, when you deal damage to at least one target, you gain an additional effect determined by the damage type. Cold. One of the targets of your choice takes an additional 1d6 cold damage and must make a con save. On a failed save, the target speed is reduced by 10 feet, and the target can be affected by the ice only once per round. So you can't basically lock someone down to 0 movement. Makes sense. Fire. You deal an additional 1d6 fire. Fortifying flames, then dance. Within 30 feet of you, the chosen creature... one creature gains 1d6 temp HP, which at 10th level is pretty bad, honestly. There's a lot of effects that'll be giving you more temporary HP. So if you have a party that is, doing that, then the temp HP is going to be absolutely worthless. But, that is nice if no one's got any temp HP to give, then 1d6 could mean the difference between life and death, especially if you keep on giving it to people again and again as they get hit, and then you give them more. That could be pretty nice. And lightning, once one of the targets of your choice deals additional 1d6 lightning damage and must make a dex save. On a failed save, the target is unable to take reactions. That's a very common theme with lightning and not being able to take reactions. People are just going, so that's pretty cute. And lastly, for the 14th level ability here, impeccable physicality. You gain proficiency in the dexterity saving throw if you do not already have it. Additionally, when you make a dexterity saving throw, you can treat a d20 roll of a 9 or lower as a 10. Okay. So if you are proficient in dexterity at that point, you're going to have a pretty high stat, unless, of course, you dumped your dex for some reason. And then, so basically, this is like a combination of like a rogue ability, which, I mean, at that point at 14th level, you are still subject to plenty of dexterity saving throws, which is pretty nice, but that's not exactly a exciting keystone level, you know what I'm saying? Let's take a look at the third class here, Mage of Quadric. Oh boy. Okay, using the subclass here, we have just sorcerers and wizards. So the first one that is just only a dual class, only for the pure arcane casters here. Let's take a look. We have the first ability here, Quadric Spells. You learn Guidance and Guiding Bolt. Pretty dope stuff here. Each of the spells count as a class spell for you, And we get some, once again, techie stuff here. We get Enlarge, Reduce, Spike Growth, or Vitality, Haste, Control Water, Freedom of Movement, Circle of Power, and Pass Wall. Man, this one is just straight up like the only air cool offensive spell on that whole list there is Spike Growth, and everything else is just you protecting yourself or you making everyone else better, I guess. Functions of probability here. By iterating on the mathematical patterns of reality, you can judge chance to tilt around a creature. When you cast a spell using a spell slot, you can choose that creature or another creature within 30 feet of it, including yourself, and add one of the following effects. So already this is telling me this is going to be a buffer and debuffer class, which I like. The chosen creature must succeed on Wisdom saving throw, or the creature must roll a d6 and subtract the number rolled for the next attack roll it makes before the start of your next turn. Pretty cool. And supplemental function: once before the start of your next turn, the chosen creature you can roll a d6 and add the number to an attack roll or a saving throw of its choice. The creature can roll the d6 after rolling the d20, but must decide before any of the effects of the roll occur. Basically, it's saying, hey, before the DM declares that you succeed or fail, are you going to roll that d6? Yes or no? I really like that. I really like the buffing, debuffing classes. Really, we've only seen that in Cleric so far. Cleric has been the best class that truly is able to make use of its class abilities. Of course, Bard has a bunch of spells that buff and debuff, and Wizard's got a bunch, but Cleric is really the best one to showcase off, ways to help and hinder all around. Velocity shift at 6th level here. When a creature you can see starts a turn, man, mouse, what are you doing? When a creature you can see starts a turn or moves to a space within 30 feet of you, you can use your reaction to force the creature to make a charisma saving throw against your spell save DC. On a failure, the creature is teleported to an unoccupied space of your choice that you can see within 30 feet of you. You can use your reaction in this way a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, and you regain all expended uses when you finish a long rest. That is actually insane. So that's already telling me, basically, if someone's trying to run up at you, this velocity shift here, your opponent starts 50 feet away and they charge straight at you. They use up all 50 feet of their movement, or not 50 feet, but they use up 20 of their movement moving in your direction. And then as soon as they get close, you hit them and then they move back. Well, that was just a bad example, but there's a lot of things you can do with basically surviving a whole nother round, them not attacking you in melee. But also, I think very importantly is the fact that not only can you send people away, but you can also get your friends in the fight quicker. If you have a melee person and they need to get in the fight, you can teleport them even faster, which is really cool. And it's already telling me as well is an unoccupied space within 30 feet of you can see. That tells me that there's a lot of exploration-based effects you can do here. If there is a cliff that is 30 feet up there, you can say, okay, just take a jump and I'll send you flying up there. I think that's actually a really cool thing. There's a lot of crazy things you can do with that. I imagine in combat, though, this is actually very, very disruptive. Like I said before, if someone's charging right at you and they use up all their movement to get to you, and then you can just send them back, and then they wasted their whole turn, that's a big deal. Whole one round of doing nothing, that's bad. The 10th level ability, Null Equation, level 10. Once per turn, immediately after dealing damage to a creature, you can force the creature to make a con save. On a failure, the creature has disadvantage on strength and dex saving throws, and its weapon attack rolls only deal half damage. The effects last until the start of your next turn. You can use this feature a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus. You regain all expended uses when you finish a long rest. Wow, that's actually just crazy. So the strength saving throws are non-existent in D&D, right? There's I think you can count the number of effects that are strength saving throws on your hands, I think. But dexterity save, that's huge. If you cause something to have disadvantage on dexterity saving throws, then everyone just can pump all of their spells or effects into it, and the thing's gonna fail. In addition to that, they also deal only half damage. So it's saying weapon attacks. I already know a lot of people are going to say, okay, so are your fist melee attack or weapon attacks, or is the dragon's breath, is that a weapon attack? I'm sure there's going to be a lot of debate on that. It really comes down to who you decide on, if you listen to sage advice or you just roll whatever it is you wish to roll. And lastly here, quantum tunneling. Okay, you gain resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage. So once again, just the keystone here is becoming partially a bard or a barbarian. Additionally, you can move through other creatures as objects for difficult terrain, but you take 1d10 force damage for every 5 feet you move while inside another creature or object. If you end your turn inside the object, you are shunted into the nearest unoccupied space you last occupied. So quantum tunneling, I really like that ability because what that's saying is if there's a wall there and you need to get to the other side and it's only 5 feet away, then you'll be willing to take the 1d10 damage if it's like necessary. But there's also the exploration aspect of it of, okay, we're in this dungeon and I think that there's something behind here. I'm going to go start looking. And then you could potentially be taking a bunch of damage here. You could be taking a bejesus ton of damage, but you could eventually make your way through to the other side if there is another side. And of course you are getting that bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage resistance, but at level 14 you're probably going up against things that are doing more than just that. So I think this class is pretty fun here. I think it's kind of bouncing all over the place. It's got buffing and debuffing effects. It's got basically just, I mean, it leans more into the debuffing there with that null equation at 10th level. That's huge. And then I feel like the quantum tunneling just comes out of left field. I don't think it sits like perfectly with the class, but it is a pretty cool feature. But yeah, that's pretty interesting. Mage of Silverquill, Bard, Warlock, or Wizard subclass. All right, back to Bard, Warlock, Wizard. Okay, Eloquent Apprentice. You learn Sacred Flame or Vicious Mockery. So if you're Bard, then you're learning Sacred Flame. It doesn't count against the number of cantrips you know, and is added to your spell list. Additionally, you gain proficiency in 2 of the following: Deception, Intimidation, Performance, Persuasion, and Insight. So this is like I feel like this is already like a barbarian, I feel like this is already a Bard subclass, just like right off the bat. Silvery Barbs. You invoke words laced with magic. Immediately after a creature you can see within 60 feet of you succeeds on an attack roll, an ability check, or a saving throw, you can use your reaction to demoralize the creature. Unless the creature is immune to being charmed, it re-rolls the d20 and must use the lower roll. If the attack roll, ability check, or saving throw then fails, you can choose a different creature you can see within 60 feet of you. You can choose yourself. That creature is empowered. You can reroll 1 attack roll, ability check, or saving throw it makes within 1 minute and use the higher result. A creature can be empowered only by 1 time, which makes sense. Once a creature fails an attack roll, an ability check, or saving throw because of a reroll forced by this feature, you can't use this feature again until you finish a long rest, unless you expend a spell slot to use it again. Ooh, okay, I really like that. So I was already thinking to myself, like, oh man, can you just like do this all over the place? You can and you can't. So you can in the sense that you can, hit someone, you can just totally try and mess up their day by forcing them to re-roll. But at the same time, if you want to keep using this ability over the course of the day, that's going to start eating into your spell slots, which, I like when abilities are tied to spell slots as well, because that gives you variety, and it also really enforces the idea of, okay, I don't have, 3, 4, 5 different pools of abilities. I've only got the 1 or 2. I have to make sure I utilize it carefully. So I'm already seeing this, and I'm already thinking of all these scumbag players out there that are gonna they're gonna multi-class into this, and then, or they're gonna start off with this, and then they're gonna multi-class into Divination Wizard, and then they're also gonna take the Lucky Feat, and then they're just gonna be dice manipulating gods. I already see that happening, right? Like that's just gonna be such a scumbag, awesome thing you can do just to mess with everybody's day. Inky Shroud. You learn Darkness spell, and it's added to your class. If you're a wizard, it's added to your spell book. You can cast a spell without expending a spell slot. You can't do so again until you finish a long rest. When you cast a spell in this way, you can see normally through the darkness. Oh, no. No more perfect dark vision. And when a creature you can see starts its turn in the darkness, you can deal 2d10 psychic damage to that creature. Oh, that's gnarly. Is the darkness itself isn't the thing that's causing the damage. It's you looking at them in the darkness. I could already envision it right now. Basically, something's in the darkness, and then all of a sudden it sees a flash of like a light eyes or creepy eyes, and bam, it's just hitting you, with 2d10 psychic damage. I like that effect, but I'm tired of people being able to see through darkness. I don't like it. You can also cast a spell normally without the additional effects by using a spell slots of you have 2nd level or higher. Makes sense. Yeah, that's pretty freaking strong. I'd say that's that if you have a team and they go into like the darkness build of having Devil Sight and that Monk and all that, you can definitely like throw this into the mix and it's gonna work out perfectly fine. Infusion of Eloquence, the 10th level ability here. When you cast a spell that deals damage, you can invoke additional words. Any creature damaged by the spell takes extra damage equal to your proficiency bonus. So at this level, it'd only be 3, but in just one level after that, that'd be 4. It has its motion swayed with despair or aberration based on the damage type dealt. If it is psychic, the creature is frightened of you until the start of your next turn. Just straight up, there is no save at all whatsoever. I think that's probably too strong. I know that's too strong. And if you do radiant damage, the creature is charmed by you until the start of your next turn. Oh yeah, that's I'm gonna say right there, that's way too powerful. That should definitely be tied behind a DC. It should be they have a DC. They have to make a Wisdom saving throw against your spell save DC because that's just straight up just an automatic frighten or charm that can just absolutely just win fights right then and there. You can use this feature a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus. Once again, that'll be 3 at this level, but just one more and it'll be 4. And you regain all back on a long rest. Makes sense. That's way too strong. OP. I think this class is definitely probably going to need the most touching up in the workshop there. With those silvery barbs, and the silvery barbs aren't that big of a deal, but I think the Inky Shroud and now the Infusion is pretty bad. Now let's look at the words of power. Okay, you gain the following options. Okay, you can invoke power. Okay, Deadly Despair. When the target of your silvery barbs fails an attack roll, an ability check, or saving throw, you can, because of the reroll, you can invoke a word of despair and give the target vulnerability to one damage type of your choice until the start of your next turn. I think that's perfectly fine for a capstone ability. And Selfless Invocation. When a creature you can see within 60 feet of you takes damage, you can invoke a word of power using your reaction to grant the creature resistance to that damage type. You take the amount of psychic damage equal to the damage that creature takes. Ooh, that's interesting. So that actually reminds me of Warding Bond. Basically, if your homie is getting hit by 88 points of fire damage from that evil ancient dragon, then you can say, hey, I got you, fam. And then they take 44 points of damage, and then you take 44 points of damage. You just spread the hate all around instead of letting it just fall into one person. I really like that. That's actually one of the best capstones I've seen, and only at 14th level. I really like the Word of Power. I am not exactly a fan of the Inky Shroud and the Infusion of Eloquence, but I guess we'll have to see what everyone else has to say. Let me grab a drink of water here. The Mage of the Witherbloom, the final of the classes here. I'm assuming this is going to be the hippie one. Druid and Warlock, yep. Okay, Witherbloom Spells. You learn the cantrip Spare the Dying and a first level Cure Wounds and Inflict Wounds. You learn additional spells when you reach certain levels. So you learn Lesser Restoration, Rave Enfeeblement, Revivify, Vampiric Touch, Blight, Greater Restoration, Anti-Life Shell, and Mass Cure Wounds. So I really like the dichotomy there. So basically, right off the bat, you learn both Cure Wounds and Inflict Wounds, which I think are pretty funny in that Cure Wounds can only heal up to a D8 plus your casting ability, and then Inflict Wounds is super gnarly. It's a 3D10, and they aren't equal, but they're supposed to be like opposites. And then we see here Lesser Restoration and Rave Enfeeblement. They're somewhat opposites. Revivify and Vampiric Touch, sort of opposites. I mean, kind of ish. Blight, Greater Restoration, same thing. And then Anti-Life Shell and then Mass Cure Wounds. I really like the flavor already coming off of these spells that you're given. Let's take a look at the abilities we get. At level 1, as a bonus action, you can draw on a reservoir of life essence. For 1 minute, you gain the following benefits of one of the following. Okay, you Overgrowth. When you choose this benefit and as a bonus action on subsequent turns, while the benefit lasts, you can expend and roll 1 hit die. You regain a number of HP equal to the number rolled plus your spellcasting ability modifier. Okay. Withering Strike. You deal damage. You can change the type to necrotic, and you ignore resistance to necrotic damage. OP. At level 1, you can choose to ignore necrotic damage. That's crazy. You can use this feature a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus. Makes sense. I mean, I like the overgrowth thing because I like hit dice as a function. That's something that you can use just outside of short rest. But my goodness, just ignoring necrotic resistance, that's ridiculous. You can slap the undead, evil monster that's just immune to necrotic damage. That's not fair. And then if we get into the next thing on 6th level, Witherbloom Brew, you gain proficiency in Herbalism Kit if you don't already have it. When you finish a long rest, you can use an Herbalism Kit or pot cauldron to create magical brews. You create a number of brews equal to your proficiency bonus, which at this level would be 3. Each brew requires its own flask. A brew retains its magical potency for 24 hours. For each of the brew, choose one of the following effects. Fortifying. When you create this brew, choose a damage type from the following list: cold, fire, necrotic, poison, or radiant. A creature can drink this brew. The recipient gains resistance to the damage type for 1 whole hour. I like that. Very witchery right there. Quickening. A creature can drink this brew or administer to another creature. The recipient gains 2d6 HP and 1 disease or condition from the following list effects ends. This is the brewed user's choice, so you have to basically choose right from the beginning there. Charmed, frightened, paralyzed, poisoned, or stunned. I'm already getting some like Witcher flavor here because you show up to a fight and you say, okay, we know that in that cave there is these paralyzing ghouls, let's say. So I'm going to batch us up some quickening brew, and if anybody gets paralyzed, shove it down the throat and they're good to go. And then we also get Toxifying. As an action, a creature can apply this brew to a simple or martial weapon. The next time the weapon or a piece of ammo is fired at a creature, the target takes 2d6 poison damage and must succeed on con saving throw or be poisoned for 1 minute. Pretty strong, pretty cool. Yeah, it's actually I really like this class so far. Witherbloom, yeah, I mean there really isn't much more to say other than that I like prepping for fights. I like not just showing up to the fight willy-nilly. It's like, this is okay, I know for a fact that we're going up against so-and-so. I'm going to prep the fortifying. I'm going to prep the toxifying. This and that. Witherbloom Adept. Your connection to the flow of life force deepens. Once per turn, you can deal necrotic damage or restore HP using a spell. One target of the spell takes additional damage or regains HP equal to your proficiency bonus. That is so incredibly lame. Oh no. How does the class go from having so much flavor and depth and then going from at level 10 there, at level 10 you get practically nothing. So right then and there, all right, like that sucks. That's so boring. Dealing necrotic damage, congratulations. At this level you deal an additional 3 damage. Woo! Oh, you're gonna heal someone. You heal them for 3 more HP. Woo! That's not fun. I mean, I understand why. Like this class already has a bunch going for it with its spell list, and it's like nice little versatility. But man, that Witherbloom Adept right there, that's just boring. That's not fun. And lastly here, Withering Vortex. When you cast a spell using a spell slot that deals necrotic damage to any number of creatures that aren't undead or constructs, very important there. Choose one of the creatures that took damage. You drain an amount of life energy equal to half the damage dealt to the chosen creature. One creature other than yourself can see within 30 feet of you regains a number of HP equal to the life energy drained. Okay, so and that one's really cool. You basically do an AoE, like you'd probably want to do an AoE, just to ensure that you get a bunch of people. And then you can help out the homie at the same time doing a vampiric, basically, touch and transferring life force over to someone else, as long as they're not undead or construct. Really, really cool. You can use this number of times equal to your proficiency bonus. So I really like that. Like that's not the most exciting capstone ability there, but I like it. I like the idea of, there's a frontline fight, and then the fighters getting hit, and then they're going up against someone else, and it's a nice power swing. You do a bunch of damage to that person, and not only do you do damage to them, but also your fighter gets healed too. Really awesome stuff. So pretty much, I like everything about this except for that Witherbloom Adept. And just like that, that is all of the Strixhaven classes here. We actually get some pretty good stuff in this all in all. There is a lot of flavor here. There's a lot of options, and that's what we want, right? We want options. We want variety. We want resources to manage. We want that stuff because that's just going to add more just stuff to work with. I like the majority of the content here. I'd say a solid 90% of it A-okay in my books. There might be some things that are either broken because they're too good, or there might be some things that are just lame because they're boring. But other than that, I'm really liking this so far, and I really hope that in addition to this, I hope we get some more stuff coming with Strixhaven, because it is the magic setting, right? It is not only like a high fantasy magical setting, but we're also going to a magical school. So I'm really hoping, in addition to all of these subclasses, we get some more magical items. I'm hoping we get some things on how to, maybe deal with magical classes. I hope we get to see a lot more things coming from this Strixhaven adventure, and I'm really hoping that everyone submits all of their feedback to this UA, because that's how this UA gets fixed. If people do not submit if you don't tell them, hey, that 10th level ability there is boring, they're not going to fix it, right? So please submit all of your stuff to the UA. I'm going to have the link down below. But that's going to do it for us today. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for listening. And thank you to my amazing patrons. And I cannot wait to see you all in the next one.